Hey guys, Dutch here. I'm here ready to bring you another update on my Shadowverse climb. I did indeed hit Masters. Uh, I did indeed hit Masters this season. Don't mind the Topaz, I was testing decks as soon as I got here. But I just want to give a little showcase to the decks that I kind of played to climb up to Masters, which I hit last week. Don't mind my favorite cards. Uh, I played a lot of Sword and Rune when I hit AA. I believe when I hit A, I switched from Dragon to Rune. I played Rune all the way up until A3, where I switched to Sword. Did my trials for AA. Played Sword for majority of the ladder until I hit AA3, where I switched back to Rune. So I'm gonna do a quick deck profile on the decks that I used. So from around the time I hit AA, I used this deck, mid-range sword. This is the final variant that I used. The one I used previous was similar to the one Jif showcased in his video. Pretty much no fighter, and I believe no tentacle in Jif's list, but I ended up opting for one tentacle and two fighters halfway through AA2, I believe. This deck worked for me pretty well. Obviously, the only struggling matchup I had was against Artifact Portal. Forest and Rune were always a 50-50 matchup, and these were most of the classes I kept queuing into while I was in AA. Rune is being able to kind of push damage and force them into a position where Kuan doesn't really do anything. Although at mid-range, that's kind of debatable depending on what you draw. And if they Kakaitis declimb you, well, there's not much you can do there. So your goal is to prevent them from doing that. It's basically a race at that point. They can stall into the Kuan. You're stalling into your Albert for 12 damage. If they leave a Molly on board, then it's kind of over, right? If they leave anything like Geno on board, it's kind of over. Whereas mid-range sword is really good at sticking out boards, right? You're getting boards from Hound of War in hand 6. You're getting chip damage with balls at hand 6 with ambush, assuming they don't have Divine Thunder or any non-targetable removal. In terms of the mirror, you typically want to have Amelia into Luminous Mage on 8. With 8 play points, I mean. Because Amelia gives Luminous Mage plus the 3 ward guys, the Steelclad Knights barrier. Which is typically good against Rune. They don't really have a great way to out that other than William and have Kuan trade. Or unless if they kind of declimb you on 9 if they're going second. That's kind of bad depending if they draw Astaroth, Astaroth's Awakening. The mirror, it usually just comes down to who's below 12 and has the Albert. Although Amelia plus Luminous Magus is also really good in that matchup, depending on who gets it first, since she does draw. Rounding Tunnel is really good in games where you manage to, like, both players manage to clear board and Tentacles to save, because it does 5 damage to anything, and heals 5. So I found myself winning some matches with this, clutching out, especially if I managed to chip them down pretty fast early game with Zirconia. Which is nice. There's not much else to say about this deck. You truly just want to play on curve. The sword, sword really hasn't changed since SV1. Amalia and Geno are probably the highlight of the deck late game for tempo. Or not tempo. They're just really good in the late game because Geno doesn't require to use any evos, and Amalia gives you full board rewards. And unless they're playing like Orcus or something, which you will struggle in the Portal matchup just a little bit, you're typically always finishing with Albert doing 12 damage. Or some way, if they, again, leave Amalia on board, then Albert gets buffed, or like your board gets buffed, and stuff like that. I personally like Royal Coach Woman in the deck. I know some people opt to take her out. I just like her because she sticks for things like Olivia, She sticks for things like Luminous Mages, where if they don't trade the Royal Coachwoman previously, I get an extra ward by trading this because of Luminous Mage's effect to give officer followers ward. She's really great with Amalia because you get 2 wards for free on with 10 play points. Being able to trade a 3/2 Steel-clad Knight into a Royal Coachwoman, she'll do an additional 2 more damage to a follower on board. And then summon a Knight, which will also be a 2/2 stat line ward. That way you don't lose your board presence in situations where you want that to be the case. Yeah, there's not much else to say about this deck. Pretty solid deck. I know people are shifting to Kagemitsu and more of an aggressive playstyle because of because of how good Forest is on ladder right now. I think Forest by far is the best deck in this format. At least as of right now. The Set 2 live stream is on Thursday, so I'll be doing that. I hit AA3 and I went on a huge loss streak because the pure artifact package was too strong to deal with. I wasn't like aggroing them down. I wasn't putting enough pressure on artifact in AA3. It was really hard to do so, and they kept getting I kept getting like Orcus into Masterwork, which was really difficult to deal with. And even in situations where I managed to stay pretty neutral against Orcus, not really having like an advantage over Orcus, just being able to clear Orcus, they have access to things like Ramia, which I would run out of things to board clear with, right? By that point of the game, in which they could safely masterwork and I'd be dead. But this deck does do decently well against Artifact, as long as you're applying pressure to them. But other than that, it is a pretty hard matchup to deal with. So if you're queuing a lot of Portal on ladder, this might not be the best deck for you to play. So I ended up switching to Runecraft. I do not like fighting this deck, but I figured it had the most consistency in AA3 to push for Masters, because cards like Anangrea being able to spell boost your hand 3 times, being able to do 3 damage to an enemy follower on evolve, and then summoning it and summoning, which is a 5/5 5 ward, or sorry, 3 5 ward. It's just a good stat line. It's a really hard card to deal with, unless you have things like Fill Down, Divine Thunder, and stuff like that. This card is really, really strong, guys. It's probably one of the top 10 best cards in Shadowverse right now, just standalone. Of course, there are ways to deal with it, but like, you get 3 Angreas back to back into like 2 Kuans, and it's kind of over, right? Especially if they have 0 cost Blaze Destroyers getting summoned, 0 cost, like they're high rolling you, right? Which is not gonna happen often. So I won't say this deck is like too like difficult to deal with, because you're typically stalling into Kuan Kakai's Declimb anyways. But yeah, this sticking on board to just hit you in the face for 6 damage and not being able to deal with it, some games is pretty harsh on your side. But I mean, if you can't beat them, join them, right? I originally had Snowman and Rublin Conductor in the deck, but I didn't like how those felt. Snowman often felt like a brick half the time. And even in situations where it was really good, setting a opponent's follower defense to 1, there were some games where I couldn't really follow up. I know, you're probably saying, but Glitch, how can you not follow up with the Snowman? You have various options. I don't know, man. I think I just got skill issue in AA3. So I opted for, a lot of people were opting for Witch's New Brew, and I ended up slotting that in. I ended up taking Snowman and Rumbling Conductor out, because while I do like Rumbling Conductor's effects, conflicting with Anangrea for removal for 5 play points made me want to take her out. Although some people are starting to slot her back in, I personally just like Witch's New Brew just for the draw and the additional board clear option with Sage Light's Teaching, just in case you don't need to heal. Because if you're already at 20, there's no point in playing this card to heal for spell boost when you can give it the option to clear board and spell boost at the same time. Other than that, the deck is pretty standard for spell boost. You always want to draw first before spell boosting. You typically want to draw early game, and you definitely want to mulligan for Anangrea, no matter if you're going first or second. And then you're closing your game out with your Kuan, Blaze Destroyer board, because Kuan is always 5 damage face, right? Super Evil Kuan. It's the 4/5 Shikigami, which I think is a Celestial, right? Yes. And then we all know how strong Kakai's decline is. Even if you don't pull Astaroth, you're always getting like Silent Rider or what's the other one? The 5/5 that does 6. It's like 2 enemy followers deal 6 damage and 6 damage to face. I'm not a fan of the one play point 1313. While it does stick and apply pressure, it doesn't really like do anything if you're just trying to close out the game. But in case of zero resource games, it does pretty good. Yeah, this deck is great. It helped me consistently get win streaks in AA3 hitting Masters. And I do have a clip on Twitch of me hitting Masters. I was like popping off and stuff. So if you want to see that, go check me out on Twitch. But yeah, your early game is just draw on the spell boost. William helps clear a board on 6. And then Kuan's Kuan. I'm pretty sure most of you guys are well of their standard like spell boosters. There's not really any special tech other than Witch's New Brew. And things like Teachings, being able to Earthstrike 3, deal 4 damage to all enemy followers. Yeah, I didn't really struggle too much against most decks. Using this list is pretty good. At least up until I hit Masters, where I started experimenting. So if you guys just need a consistent deck overall, I think this is the way to go. Mid-range might take a lot of practice to kind of get the matchups included, whereas this is kind of just... It's not entirely brain dead, but it'll get the job done, right, for you to hit Masters. Or if you're an AA, if you're pushing for AA, this is really good. Yeah, pretty much. This deck is pretty straightforward, unless you're in situations where your hand is bricked and you were forced to use Declimb to draw, which is not always a good feeling, but sometimes it's your best option to kind of get yourself out of a bricked situation. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy my prog. I will be posting more videos, especially the card reveal video on Thursday. I'll be reacting to the live stream. But other than that, I hope you guys had a great day. Enjoy your climb. For those of you guys pushing for Masters, I wish you guys good luck. And I'll see you there. Hopefully we find each other on ladder. Bye bye.